Alright, welcome back to Modern Mondays here at Guardian Games in Portland, Oregon. I'm Travis, hanging out from Portland Paper, and I'm with
Tim Chan.
And yeah, we're bringing you round number 3. Have an interesting matchup. Might be really quick, or it might be really long.
Yeah,
it's probably not going to be somewhere in the middle. We have Mono Red Phoenix versus Sultai Teachings, which is a wilderness reclamation based deck. We were talking a little bit before we turned on the mics here, and you feel pretty strongly that Mono Red's going to mop this up pretty quickly here?
Well, at least game one. Definitely game one. Especially, Justice X is a bit mid-rangey. I don't expect too much. I mean, Fatal Pushes is all he's really got initially, but with Arc like Phoenix, Fatal Push is going to be a little too slow.
Okay.
So.
Cryptics can buy time. Usually there's going to be no counter spells in the Red Phoenix deck, but a little bit more burn, a little bit. There's same amount of creatures, but they're lower on the curve here. And speaking of aggressive 1-drops, we have a Swiss Spear coming in for 1. Got a lot of dice out there.
That's a newer Water Grave art.
That's interesting that these shocks now have like 3 arts, and then looking at the value of them, the Return to Ravnica block ones are the least expensive a lot of times.
Yeah, well, only a few of the art stands out to me, like the Sacred Foundry actually I do enjoy from that set. But in general, I prefer some of mostly the OG.
Get a Lava Spike here.
You still get there with that.
I feel like Justin has a remand because Sultai Teachings is on 4 remand and 4 cryptic, and he's maybe thinking, do I remand this? Does my opponent have another land and is baiting me?
Before damage, I'm gonna gut shot you.
18. So that will put me at
10. 1, 2, 3.
11 trigger and then another one,
Yeah, oh, the gut shot will do, yeah. So you're at 9.
Alright.
I'm at 18.
We're not even going to see Phoenix.
Hey, that's just 1 fetch and a, yeah, that's 11 damage by turn 2. Chris dealt 10 of it. And Justin's going down to 8. Now this does get to the point where Justin might be able to start to stabilize. It depends how many burn spells Chris has.
Play the land and fetch. I'm just like...
Fortunately for Chris, he missed the land drop during his second turn.
It is.
Yep.
See the inset? You got it.
Alright, well that's a way to start. See another Lava Spike, see a mountain.
Lava spike you?
Counter bounce? Sure.
And we get a counter bounce. So Chris is going to be able to deploy a mountain and the Swiss Spear again. And I see a lot of lightning bolts.
Yes.
2 at least.
Good turn.
Besides the gut shot, do you think Justin thinks Chris is on? Or on Mono Red Phoenix yet?
Definitely. The gut shot gives it up.
Yep. Inset? Yep.
So he's got Logic Knock and a Remand.
Well, does by a turn.
Move the combat.
Yeah.
To clear my deck.
Yeah.
So we're just going back to the actions of declaring, moving the combat.
Yeah, I feel like when you're playing Cryptic Command deck, you want to make sure that your opponent announces when the phases and stuff that they're in here. And
I think so. Justin, I think, has a Snap, Logic Knot, and a Remand. And Chris has a lot of 1-mana bolts.
yeah.
Logic knot for 2. Okay.
Right.
I think that was Chris. I think we'll probably see Remand here, which isn't really buying too much time.
No, yeah, I think Chris is sitting on 2 more bolts.
It's like, ah, man. Alright, take a peek.
So he's got Teachings.
Is there any main deck life gain? Are they playing like a Collective Brutality?
I don't believe main board they are.
There could be so many silver bullets. I have no idea.
Yeah. I imagine he's gonna get.
They're playing Pulse of Marassa.
Yeah.
Hate to do it, but
And is
damn
that Abrupt Decay?
I believe that's Abrupt Decay. I think he has to kill the Swift Spear.
Swift Spear, powerful than all, more powerful than all.
Man, I'm telling you. Let's go ahead and get rid of this.
All right, Chris is
Oh.
probably feeling pretty good here, having
Yeah.
2 lightning bolts in hand.
Well, I mean, Justin could have another Logic Knot. He doesn't know what Justin's second card is. He could at least stem the damage to at least sustain 3 life, I would say. But with the Snapcaster, it's not feeling good. Because I'm assuming he's going to have to snap, you know,
It's like
possibly block or...
Move 2 attacks.
Looks like chat says there's 1 pulse in the main deck.
Okay.
Usually. I feel like it's a new archetype and there's no like set 75.
Yeah, so Abrupt Decay, Chris should be able to mop it up right here.
Okay, down to 2. I have another one.
He does, he does. Damn it, I left myself naked. Snappy dead. Ah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had another mountain, so even if you guys were manned up, I could do it.
Yeah. I know, that's like...
Alright, well, Chris takes game 1 off the back of that. Like, Swiss Sphere being a recursive threat and a bunch of burn spells. So, this mono red Phoenix deck is very, very similar to Burn, except then it just does have the additional advantage of you get to play your Faithless Lootings and
Yep.
Arc-like Phoenixes.
What are your thoughts on Faithless Looting beyond the ban? Possible ban.
So if I had, if I was like in Vegas and was like, you know, wagering on this, I would say within a year, looting is going to be banned, but they just can't really, because there's so many other shakeups like we were talking earlier, I don't
Yeah.
think they can ban it
Yep.
this cycle. And like, also there's 3 modern GPs that are coming up in the next
Yes.
couple months all over the world. And that would be quite a bummer where a lot of people have bought into Modern with this Arclight deck because it was a pretty inexpensive relative to Modern port from Standard. Basically, you just, if you already had the Phoenixes, you needed Mana Base and Manamorphose, and everything else in the deck is like under $10, I think.
Yep.
And that would be, yeah, just kind of bad PR for Wizards.
Oh, yeah. Well, not only that deck, but it kills Dredge. It will kill like whoever left is playing Mardu Pyromancer, right? It kill a few decks.
Yeah, I feel like actually Mardu Pyromancer is the one that wouldn't exist anymore. I feel like there would still be Phoenix decks and there would still be Dredge, but you just, maybe Dredge would go back to playing Insolent Neonate and probably another discard outlet, and Phoenix will play something like Chart a Course or maybe even Cathartic Reunion,
Yeah.
but just slows it down about a turn.
Yes. And don't forget there's also the Mythic Champion. So you got the GPs and Mythic Champion coming up.
Yep. Yeah, and I imagine those are going to be pretty dominated by Faithless Looting decks, because I think it is too good for Modern right now, because
Yes.
it's
It's enabling a lot of linear decks right now.
but I don't think anything's going to happen to it
Yeah.
for the foreseeable future.
So would you put that ahead of Ancient Stirring then? I guess if you were going to go gamble? Or
Yeah,
go
I mean,
wager?
I feel like I have some pretty polarizing points of view. I don't think Ancient Stirrings is bad. I think having Tron as like your top end for a format is not a negative thing, even though sometimes it feels bad to lose to it. I feel like there needs to be a top end, and probably Tron's better than having something like Blue-White Control be like at the top end. And you know, Hardened Scales is very beatable, as we saw earlier. There's many styles of decks that can beat that, and yeah, I feel like that Stirrings enables some Lantern style decks, which also I don't think are that oppressive. So it's not, I don't think it as egregious of a thorn in Modern as Looting
Yeah.
is.
Especially now that KCI is kind of gone, you know.
Oh, at the top end, I mean sort of like a big control deck, like your big mana deck that will beat mid-range decks. So right now that's Tron.
So I can imagine Justin's bringing at least a couple of ways to gain life. Either another, what I've seen is Life Goes On, which is when a creature dies, you gain 8 life.
Pretty good. Yeah, also I imagine that they're bringing in some Dispels, Spell Pierces, etc., whatever kind of blue counters they're running in sideboard.
Lava Spike, trigger you. Sure. Down to 17. I'll attack you for 3.
All right, coming in for 3 with a prowess trigger off the Tormod script.
Light up the stage.
And a light of the stage. Justin is asking if that's a sorcery. Nothing, nothing like telegraphing you have a dispel. It's a sorcery that that costs more than 2 mana. Is that right?
Yeah. I think it's gonna have to negate it. Oh no, just remand. Okay. Ooh.
See a Bedlam Reveler hanging out in Chris's hand. A little ways off from that.
Justin does have the Reclamation in hand.
Yeah, it feels like this teaching stack might have some issues with like really fast aggressive strategies. You don't have much of a clock in terms of closing out the game, and it's probably hard to interact with a lot of burn spells.
I'm like, man, light up the stage is coming out again. He's trying with that. Oh, shit.
I mean, it is playing the new ramp spell though.
Growth Spiral. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, if you can ramp up to 4 on turn 3, that's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Not for 2. Sure.
All right, getting a Logic Knot on light up stage,
Soulscar Mage.
and another Soulscar Mage.
So Chris is stuck with 1 land and a Bedlam Reveler. So that must be a little rough on Chris right now. But I mean, it's not the worst. But because Justin doesn't have any failed pushes or removes that I can tell of.
Yeah, and as Justin's missing land here and has not found a way to deal with these creatures, so
Yeah. He does have a Spiral Growth, so he'll hopefully maybe top deck a land and put it immediately into play.
No blocks.
I mean, luckily again, Chris is kind of out of spells, so
Land go.
Justin at least gets a little bit more time right now.
Yep.
Oh, and that was a land, so that worked out.
it looks like there's some cryptics in hand. And good knot.
So I imagine he's gonna Reclamation this turn. He does have 2 cryptics, I believe, correct?
Yeah, Chris is one land away from, I think, or let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So maybe a couple. Let's see, a
I think
little
it's-
ways off from
yeah.
casting Reveler, maybe 2 more turns.
If you got Faithless Looting,
Yeah.
that would help it quite a bit.
Combat.
Yeah.
I think that was a Blood Moon. Oh,
Carpet.
this Blood Moon's gonna hit hard.
Block 1.
Sure. No effects. You take 1. Sure. 7. Soulscar Mage dies.
It's technically creature till EOT.
Blood Moon.
That is going to be an issue. I think the teachings deck plays something like 4 islands, but you have to you're leveraging teachings with a cryptic command, and that's going to be very hard to do with Blood Moon out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
Kick. I'll play a land for turn.
Well, we might have to find another match here pretty quickly.
Yeah, we've got about half an hour left, so I mean,
Pretty
it's definitely going to be hard for Justin to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just this creature is an issue, but we're going to have a Reveler
One
here.
more turn.
Yeah, depending on. I mean, they're just spells. Spells are lands, maybe.
Well, it's a Faithless Looting, so he
Okay.
should be able to cast Reveler
Okay.
after this Faithless Looting.
I'm gonna cast Faithless Looting.
Hopefully, if there's
Cast
a
looting.
couple spells drawn.
Or do you... Yeah.
No, I have my lovely array of mountains here, so it's not like I'll be able to respond.
Bedlam Reveler.
No, that's not gonna die. That's you get a tap. He can't cast that. We might want to go
Okay.
let the players know. I'm gonna send Tim the table spotter
So you're at 1 power.
is going out there.
You spent 1 on the Faithless Looting. Yeah, okay.
Those top 3 just go back on top.
Those 3 on top. Yeah, I haven't done anything with them.
I know,
so
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You're just 1 mana short.
I thought this was an instant sorcery.
Hold on one moment.
So I'm on.
Go get a judge.
I'll attack for 2.
Actually, do you guys want to call a judge or?
I mean, that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
there's the 3 cards. Like I drew the cards, but like they're just gonna put them back. Sure.
Yeah. Judge.
You can reorder the cards if you'd like.
Judge.
Honestly, I think you're in good position in this game.
Yeah. It's like,
We just want to make sure that everything gets sorted correctly. Actually, being a judge, what is probably going to happen is they're going to ask Chris if they've shuffled at all, and if not, they're going to shuffle the deck.
Discarded 2 cards. Then I played a Bedlam Reveler.
You cast the what?
The Bedlam Reveler, thinking that I had 4, and 4 is 8. And I
yes.
drew these 3 cards, and they were in my hand.
Oh, I see.
They were in my hand. I've seen these cards. It turns out I can't cast that.
Correct.
So I put the cards back, but we can.
Yeah. Do you know any of the other
No.
order? Okay. Let's rewind
back
and
in my hand.
shuffle your library.
Okay, that is what the judge did is
Yeah, man. I had
rewind and shuffles the library. So you don't, if a player has seen any cards, even if it's like an accidental like game rules violation like that, the fix is always going to be to shuffle the library. They're never going to let the player be like, oh, but I couldn't do anything about it. Put the cards back. You can't look at extra cards, which is effectively what's going on there.
Gross. Your turn.
But effectively, Justin's still pretty cut. Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
Bedlam Reveler's getting a remand, and
Yeah, I draw no matter what.
Attack for 1.
and is slowly getting beaten down with this Soul Scar Mage.
Well, he doesn't have a swamp, so even Fail Push doesn't get him out of this. Yeah, I think the only castle spell he's got in hand is the
Dispel?
Yep.
Which, it's funny that Justin's had a Dispel in his hand for quite a while and without any targets. Looks like we have Light of the Stage, Faithless Looting.
Skewer the Critics, actually.
Oh, Skewer the Critics, right, Faithless Looting.
And it's a sorcery, so Dispel does not get this.
Yep, and a Lava Spike. I don't think Chris has actually cast an instant.
Yeah, alright. Oh, there's 2 Dispel. Oh, you did have the Fail Push, okay. Alright.
Resolve Moon.
Well, hopefully we'll go find another match.
Yeah, we'll be back very shortly.
I did too, and I was like, okay.